Okay. Hey, everybody. Um, sorry I'm a little bit late. And if you guys can hear me and see everything all right, just drop something in the comments there. And once I have some confirmation, we can get started. All right, let's take a look. Awesome. Okay. Today, I was thinking that we could do a hiking backpack. And right now we have a competition going on with, in partnership with Keyshot. And so we had a bunch of people submit 2D designs, and we're going to be choosing who moves forward and gets a hold of Gravity Sketch so that they can take those 2D sketches and translate them here in Gravity Sketch. So that should be a lot of fun, and I thought that this could be a nice primer for that. So here we are. We're in Gravity Sketch. Just open up the application. We have the basic setting, environment setting, and we have X, Y, and Z coordinates here. So we have our axes here. So the first thing I'm going to do is press the blue menu button here, go to settings, and then up top here, switch it over to Workspace. And I'm going to go with a custom environment. So this is usually the environment I sketch with. Of course, we can change the gradients here and get something a little more interesting. But I think I'm going to stick with some sort of blue. Maybe we can move it into purple and then adjust the horizon line as well. Let's go lighter with that. And then we could leave the floor value at white as well. Or we can make it a pink. All right, that looks good. And then I usually just like to grab the flashlight, make sure it's pointing from 3/4 angle, and then grab that and delete it so that it attaches back to our menu here. We don't need to have it out in the space the entire time. So one thing I should mention here is I'm using an Oculus Rift S, so I'm able to adjust a few more parameters here, and some of the shading and visuals are going to look a little different because I'm leveraging my my computer's graphics card rather than the onboard system that you would have with the Oculus or the Oculus Quest or Quest 2. Great, so now we have our environment set up. Let's go back to Sketching Aid here and make sure that we have a couple things turned on here. So World Axes is definitely one that I want on just so I can see where I'm placed in X, Y, and Z and in space. I'm going to turn on Vertical Lock 2 for now. So you'll see if I turn Vertical Lock off, I can rotate in every direction. And if I turn Vertical Lock on, it just makes sure that Y is always facing up. And the last thing that I'm going to turn on here is the mirror option. So this just makes life easy if I'm sketching here, because we're making a backpack and it's going to be symmetrical, everything is going to be mirrored on the other side. So those are a couple of good things to have on. That's everything else here. I am going to make sure that I have Smart Move on. We'll cover Smart Move in a little bit. But other than that, we're good to go. The next thing we'll do is drop in some reference images. So as I was thinking about what we're going to sketch today, wanted to collect some reference. So I haven't played a whole lot of this game, but Death Stranding, I really love the design in it. So I grabbed some images offline of that for reference, and then a couple of other brands and backpacks that I really like. So I always like what North Face comes out with, so I just threw in one of their duffel bags. And I'm going to pull out all these images into the environment, and we're going to start to make a mood board and go from there. So first thing you'll notice is, let's say I have some geometry in the center here. I'm rotating and moving around, and all of these images here are staying in place. And I want to anchor those to the environment so that when I'm scooching around here, around the model, and focusing on detailed parts and then zooming in and out, everything else is anchored to the geometry as well. So to do that, it's pretty simple. We're just going to grab an image, and while we're holding it, press the blue button there. You'll see it has like an anchor, and as soon as we do that, those images are anchored. So we can expand our grab sphere by going up on the joystick here, grab all this stuff, and anchor all those images. And now what I want to do is just grab these, blow them up, and place them into a reference wall. So this is something like you would have in real life in a studio, which is all the images that you're going to draw inspiration for pinned up there on the wall for you. So this one's really good because it gets into all the technical layouts of the suit. And I actually probably want to move that here as like a primary image. Some good materials there. And this is also pretty cool. This is a frame. So maybe we'll add some skeletal structure to this project. All right, let's resize that. And then we can also group this together. So if I go up on the joystick, expand the grab sphere, grab all these images together, and press the purple menu button, you'll notice they all highlight together. And I don't have to expand the grab sphere to grab everything now. I can just grab a corner of one image and move all of them at the same time. So that's a really helpful trick as well. Okay, so environment set up. Everything feels nice and comfortable. We have our inspiration images in here. And the next thing we want to do is obviously design to scale, right? If we're going to sketch something out in Gravity Sketch and get all our ideas across and continue that through to building, might as well do it at scale and figure out all the problems that the actual user might be having with that product. And that's one of the inherent advantages of Gravity Sketch is designing very user-centric products, right? And it's easier because we're experiencing it in space. So let's press the blue menu button. Let's leave reference images and go to prefab. And we have a couple options here. So as you might know, if you're somewhat familiar with Gravity Sketch, you have the first menu that pops up, which is your built-in mannequins here. And then you have these prefabs up here that also come built in with Gravity Sketch. So if I click through these, we have a mannequin bust, a automotive chassis, and a human head here. So we could use any of these models right here to build this backpack, or we could use the built-in mannequins. So we can grab one of the mannequins, drop them in here so that they're at 1:1 scale, rotate them, and there we go. Now we have a mannequin at 1:1 scale, and this might be more helpful because then we can position the mannequin and, for instance, if we have some sort of a strap here that maybe we want to add a handle to so that this person can rest their hand or pull the pack up if it's bothering their back, then we can actually take the arm here and position it so that we know that it's ergonomically correct for, as a product goes. So I think that's what we're going to do. So just to cover that in depth a little more, instead of using these built-in mannequins up here that we can toggle on and off, we're going to use the actual mannequins down here. So let's grab this guy out and pull him into the environment. And right now he's at any scale, right? We can make him really big, can make him really small. Scale is kind of relative right now. But we want to make sure that this is, of course, at 1:1 scale. So what we'll do is go back to this menu, grab the guy, and drop him in this blue box here. So you can see it says drop stuff here to preview. Hold it over until it turns green, and then let go of the grab button. And now we can see he's previewed in the space. Now we won't be able to grab or change the color or adjust this guy because he hasn't officially been imported. But here we can see he's at 1:1 scale. We can zoom to that scale. We can locate the preview like this, zoom to that scale, and then rotate with these arrows up here, kind of want them facing that direction, and then press the blue check mark to import. Great. So now he's in the space. I'm going to change the color and material. So let's make him something that sort of blends in with the background and change the material to toon material. I just like this heavy outline that material set offers you. And let's position him too. So grab the mannequin, press the blue blue menu button, and with any piece of geometry, what that allows you to do is take it and put it into edit mode. So for the mannequin, you get these green points, and these are nice gestural points so that we can grab just the wrist here and position the entire arm. So this is good for some things, but not for everything. So we'll position the arms down like this. And if you wanted to get more in depth, like let's say the neck is not the best for the green edit points. But you can flick the drawing hand controller to the left or right and get these blue edit points. And they are awesome for really refining what kind of detail you're looking for. So we can sort of pose this guy a bit, bend these legs out, flip back to the green, and get those nice gestural stances. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, and the next thing that we're going to do is start to sort things out and add some cleanliness to our design process before we start sketching. So by that I mean taking everything that we have here and sorting them onto different layers. So let's press the blue menu button here, and right below prefabs is layers. So we have one layer right now, and this is very similar to Photoshop as far as layout goes. And we can tell we have one layer and everything is on that layer by just adjusting the visibility here. So you can see if I lower it, everything in the space is being adjusted. What we want to do now is take all the geometry and sort it onto new layers. So let's create a few new layers right here. So we created 2 more, and let's name them. So I'll click on layer 2, right where the name is in the far left-hand corner. And let's call this one man. And let's call the first one refs for references, and grab the references, drop them on the first layer, and grab the guy that we have here and drop him on the second layer. So now whenever I adjust visibility here, you can see everything's been dropped on its respected layer, and we can name the new one that doesn't have anything on it sketch. And there we go. So I'm going to lock these layers because we don't need to adjust them any further at the moment, and leave this one unlocked and make sure that this eyeglass is on it. And the eyeglass just means that that layer is active, right? So you'll notice if I click this layer and the eyeglass goes to that layer, which is locked, I get this warning here, active layer is locked. That's not a problem. We just click this layer here. Now it's the active layer. Everything that we create will go on that layer, and we're good to go. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is now turn our focus to the creation tools. So I can press the purple tools menu here, and you see we have ink, stroke, revolve, surface, volume, and primitive shapes. And yeah, we can start utilizing these to plan out what this backpack is going to look like. So I think a good way of approaching this would actually be just taking some general shapes and placing them as volumes so that we know we're designing around those volumes because we're going to be carrying them. So let's start with some primitive shapes here. So I'm going to click it once and then click it twice to get the menu for it. And let's grab a cylinder and drop it into space. So I'll press the purple menu button again and press the pointer finger in on the non-drawing hand and then the pointer finger on the drawing hand. And what you'll notice now is I get this preview, and I can change the dimensions of this cylinder, and then when I let go, it will drop it into space at that scale. So let's grab this guy, change the color, and maybe we can pretend that this is the volume for the sleeping bag. So we'll do something like that and figure out where we want to position that as well. So, I mean, he's probably going to have a relatively narrow sleeping bag because this is a hiking backpack. So let's just position it like that. Again, we don't need to make sure it's perfect, although that looks pretty good, because these are just volumes. We're going to come in later and design and build out different parts of the backpack. And then I think another good thing would be to just make some random shapes too. So this could be cooking materials. So this could be like a giant pot, and then he has cups inside of it, and it's all stacked together so that whenever it's time to cook, he has all his materials in one place. And for this, we'll turn mirror off. So we have this in edit mode right now, and we can flick the mirror button to the left here and turn this into a single object. So he's probably not going to be carrying two cooking materials packs with him, just one. And then let's also drop some other random shapes in here as well. So let's just make some cubes and assume that some of these are toiletries and other items that he might need. And we're just going to generally fill up some volume here. All right, that looks pretty good. And then we can also have smaller objects on the side here. Probably not on the shoulders, that would be kind of uncomfortable. But maybe here and down here. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have some volumes. So they're representing, what we're going to be designing the bag around. And what we can do now is press the purple tools menu again and go to ink, change our color to something darker, and start to sketch what we want this design to be. So let's think about this. And let's actually take a look at some reference as well. So I think these images here are pretty good because they're bare essentials, right? So we have the straps here, we have adjustment points, and then we have the belt as well, and some different paddings to make sure that it fits comfortably. So actually, I'm going to unlock the reference layer, ungroup these images, and move this guy over here so that it's a little closer for when I need to reference it. And actually, before we get into sketching, I'm going to create another layer here. Drop these objects on it, lower the visibility, and lock it, and turn activity onto the sketch layer here. And now what we can do is start to map out some of these padding areas. So let's add a centralized one right here. On the lower back. Let's add some shoulder ones here. And maybe we can split this one down the middle actually, like that. And you'll see I'm just making really quick, ugly lines because just trying to get the idea of placement right now. I'm not really trying to make, a beautiful sketch or anything. Just trying to understand the volumes. And then we can come in here with either the same tool or the stroke tool and figure out exactly what we want. All right, looks like our mannequin is not completely centered right here. I must have shifted something. So just going to grab that guy and scooch him to the left a little bit and relock him, and also relock references. All right, what else do we have here? Kind of have the side pads, the lower back pad, and then, the rest of it is really just straps. Okay, Yeah, that looks pretty decent. I think the next thing I want here is I really wanted this backpack to have like a skeletal frame on the outside here. So I can try and figure some of that out. Okay, I'm going to increase my stroke size by going right on the joystick. And actually use the stroke tool instead. So the stroke tool gives you this nice consistent line, and considering I'm making somewhat of a frame, it might be interesting to use that. And of course, everything that you create in Gravity Sketch has history. So any of these stroke lines or sketch lines I can take and just put it into edit mode and adjust it further. And then also, once it's in edit mode, you can adjust the shape of that stroke here. So if we want it to be a little more flat or oval shaped, we can adjust the shape like that. And then also adjust the direction that it's flowing in by flicking right on the joystick. And you get these green arrows, and they're really helpful. You can adjust the face of this stroke, just like that. And then flick it back the other direction, and that option will turn off. And so it's kind of cool because I'm not modeling anything right now. I'm actually just using the stroke tool and changing some parameters on it and getting all these interesting results. Now, they'll just serve as a benchmark for right now, and then I can come back later with sub-D tools or anything else and build out the idea a little bit further. All right, and if anybody has advice on, I guess, designing backpacks, drop it in the comments, and I'll take a look in a second, and maybe we can adjust the design based off of the comments. All right, that's pretty cool. I like this curvature. So I'm going to duplicate this line, and you can duplicate things by holding that object like this and pressing the pointer finger trigger. And every time you press the pointer finger trigger, you'll duplicate it another time. You can do the same thing with multiple objects, and it's just really fun to do, to be honest. So let's duplicate that out, put this line in edit mode, and then I'm going to make my grab sphere really big and grab all the edit points at once and press the red back button. And so that's going to delete all those points and just leave me with 2 points. That's a nice way of simplifying a line in a really quick way. And this will be like a crossbar. All right, cool. Let's take a look at the comments. Yeah, all right. All right, cool. Well, it looks like a lot of people are getting a Quest 2, which is pretty cool. Okay, this is a good point. Structure member to connect the top frame with the lower. That is definitely right. So what do you guys think about this? I'm thinking if there's a structure in between here, it might make it too rigid and uncomfortable. I want some flexibility here, but maybe we can kind of pretend here and throw some volumes in and have some sort of like elastic structure in between here, kind of like muscle fiber. And maybe that's what connects it in between. I'm not sure, but we'll place that there for now and come back to that. And actually, I'm noticing right now, just off of the rough frame idea that we laid in there, that we could even move around some of these objects so that they clip on the side like that. So maybe that's a cool place to clip on some water bottles or have a carabiner connection points. And yeah. Okay, cool. So now let's make the straps and just kind of figure out where they're going to go. So I'm going to use the stroke tool again and just draw out something like that. Let's look over here again and see kind of what happens. So it seems like we have this chest strap. Obviously, the straps connecting to the belt around here. The belt, and then, oh, I see what this is. This is like a carbon fiber post, kind of. It comes up above the shoulder line, and then you can adjust something there as well. Okay. So maybe we can adjust it here then. We have a point and a line that comes down like that. Yeah, that looks like it would work. Let's add the belt. And let's also split the belt here so that we have this chest strap and we have a separate line that comes here. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but we can keep it for now. And sort of the pull line there. The pull line here. Pull line there. And the pull line there. And then, of course, the chest strap here with a single pull line. Oh, no, actually, there would be a buckle here, so you would have two pull lines. Okay, cool. So now we have the straps sort of placed in the environment. It's not looking bad. Okay. And then I'm wondering if we can have like a nice neck pad here as well. I don't know if you've seen, if some of you guys watch football, like there are these, some of the players will have these neck pads that come up. I guess it just protects them whenever they're, making a hit. And I could see that as like a nice place for this, for like the user to relax their head. Maybe even whenever they're sitting down and taking a break and they haven't taken their backpack off, they could just lean back their head and relax. And then maybe we could also incorporate something in here. So there's like built-in speakers right here, and they just sort of like lightly play. I don't know. There's all sorts of things we can do there, but I'm just going to place a line in there and change it to be a darker color as well, and we can work with that in a bit. Okay, so now let's figure out where we want some of these openings to be. So I'm going to change this to a purple pinkish color, and that will identify where we have some of these openings so that we can access things. So I'm thinking we have a split here, and that's where we can have some ties here to tighten and hold the sleeping bag and air mattress in place. We can have like a mesh bottom here, or some kind of bottom here that also has pull tabs so that we can tighten things in to the frame up here. So then that way it leaves a little bit of space at the bottom here if you want to pack more stuff in. But for instance, if we didn't have those lower objects in there, you could tighten that up, and then that would be the bottom of the backpack. And actually, just for looks, let's pop out, that extra stuff and just leave it like that. And then what also might be cool is if there was another tie here that went, okay, here's what we could do. Another tie here that goes over top. The problem is, the reason I don't like that is you would need to untie this part of the backpack to get the air mattress and stuff out every single time. So there should probably be a split here. And then, yeah, just like a main compartment access point like that. That works. Yeah. All right, let's see if some people have, if anybody left anything in the comments here. Okay, so it needs to be more rigid than elastic fibers. That's a good point. Yeah, these are all good points. Okay, yeah, the D rings we can throw in with some detail. Yeah, okay, these are all great points. So I'm convinced we're gonna stiffen up this part of the backpack here. I kind of want to do it in a stylish way. So let's get rid of the stuff layer and focus on the sketch that we have right here. Just gonna delete these guys in there. Put this bottom part of the frame into edit mode and move it up like this. And that way it's closer like that. And we could just picture like a weld here. If we're doing it in sub D, if we come back and clean this frame up in sub D, then we'll definitely connect those 2 points there. But that looks kind of cool. I like that X frame shape. It's kind of cool. Oh, another thing we can do is if you put these shapes into edit mode, and of course this is made of the stroke tool for anybody that's just tuning in, we can also taper things. So let's actually just duplicate this out so I can demonstrate it. So it's a piece of stroke geometry, and we can put it into edit mode, and as you saw before, we can adjust the graph here. We can flick the trigger to the left or right and get this adjusting these arrows, adjusting the face, which is really great for just changing the direction and of the stroke. And then we can also taper this. So we can grab these points, these edit points here, and once you're holding them, go left and right on the joystick, and you can taper them. So with that said, I think it'd be kind of cool to grab these top points and just taper them in a little bit so that the structure gets thinner as it gets closer to the top. And there's a lot more of this bulky material down here for where we need that rigidity. And we could do the same here, but not to the same extent because it seems like it needs to be a lot stronger. And to get like a bone shape here, we can grab this center point and make it thinner and expand these outer points right here. Yep, just like that. Cool. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm wondering if it would also be cool to, sometimes you have like camel packs, and I'm imagining this guy maybe hiking in a really cold location where you actually need to keep your water near you so that it doesn't freeze, or it just doesn't get to a point where it's uncomfortable to drink. And the best way of keeping it warm would be keeping that close to your body. So I'm wondering if we could put some like bladder sacks in here
so that they're close enough to your body that they get warmth, and then they're also in the center of your they're in the center. They're closer to the frame in your backpack so that you still have room to stack things. That could be kind of cool, and it could have like a refill valve or something like that there, and then we can run a cable up through here, and it could work just like a camel pack. So that's just an idea. We'll place that there. But what we've done at this point right now is we've identified the different openings for this backpack. We've identified where the volume of things that we're going to carry, these padding points that would make it really comfortable and proper for somebody that's actually using this to do some serious trekking. And then also these tie points right here. And so now what we do is take this loose sketch and start to turn it into a model. And so that's what we're going to do now. So let's delete all those lines right there. And yeah, let's start segmenting things out. So let's call this pull tab. And we'll take all the green or all the blue points here. Yeah, okay. All the blue points here and drop them on that layer. And sometimes it's difficult to see what you've already got on the layer. So what I like to do is turn down the visibility for that layer. You'll get that error message, but it's not really a big deal. And drop all these points on. And once you drop them onto that layer, they'll disappear from the environment. And so you know you got them and that they're being sorted properly. Okay, and let's create a new layer here and just call this water bag, and grab all these dark blue parts for the camel bag idea and drop it there. And let's call this one zipper, and grab all the pink, drop it on that layer. And actually this was a pull tab, so we'll drop that on the pull tab layer as well. And I guess that could be a pull tab there as well. No, that's all right. This will just be, yeah, we'll just drop it on pull tab. It's not a big deal. Okay, and let's create another layer right here for frame. So all this might not be necessary. Also, I'm going to group the frame together so that we can grab it as one. It might not be necessary to segment all these different parts of geometry, but I think it's going to be a little more helpful because this backpack isn't a car. You know, we don't have large surfacing areas that all connect together, and then at the end of the day, you have one or two components to create the exterior of a vehicle. This is a product, so you have a bunch of different little pieces here that we want to focus on, so it makes sense to sort them on different layers and, you know, make sure it's all taken care of. And then let's take the sketching layer and just rename it to pads. Okay, so let's first stick with the pads layer, and let's turn it all the way down, lock it, create a new layer here, and now what we have is reference, right? So that whenever we create the geometry, we can always look at those sketch lines below. So there's a couple of ways of making this. The quickest way is for us to come here to the volume tool and maybe not make all of this, but part of it. So the volume tool is pretty much like the stroke tool. When you sketch, you get, you know, it acts in the same way, except for it just connects in between the lines with some sort of a mesh. And you get a really great way of laying out rocks for scenery or creating random parts when you're designing something just to get some volumes in the space that you can adjust later. But there's a really great addition to the volume tool. So if we double click this and we get the menu here, we can turn on planar, and you'll see my stylus is no longer attached to my hand, and there's this laser. And what it's doing is it's attaching the tool in this kind of a 2D mode onto the plane. And so then we can sketch things, and
place this plane anywhere actually and sketch flat. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place the plane here, and you do that by holding in your pointer finger trigger on your non-drawing hand. And now we can come in here and just draw a nice quick shape. And it kind of resembles padding because there's this nice radius and then it flattens off. So maybe we do something like this and then do another one here. And again, always put it in edit mode and see what you can adjust further to get exactly what you want. And then let's just grab them and place them. There's no reason to keep them in the place that we first created them. And let's actually carry on with this tool and add a section up here. Again, edit mode. A lot of what I do is just throw something roughly in the environment and then take it, put it in edit mode and adjust it further. It just seems to be really fast. All right, this is already looking pretty cool. Let's do that down here. And let's duplicate that and replicate it here. And now we could just play around with some shapes. And quickly make some like connected padded material. Yeah, maybe like that. All right, kind of getting lost on that one, but I think that looks decent. Let's maybe duplicate this guy out here, shrink it down, have one last one like that. And so if you couldn't see before, what you can then do whenever you create something with planar is put it into edit mode, move those edit points around, but then there's also this one green arrow, and you can drag that out and get these extruded volumes. Let's get some tighter radiuses on there. And even move them closer towards each other so it looks like they're actually connected in certain places. All right, apologies if this is boring to watch. Sometimes there's a decent amount of noodling that goes around to figure out exactly what you want.
Okay, it's not bad. Let's do a little bit of that down here. In fact, we can probably take some of these parts that we made up here and just blow them up a little bit and add them down here. Okay, that's fine. Actually, yeah, now I can see where some of those D-rings would look kind of cool here, like mounted to this padding. Actually, maybe we add some of that right now. We can duplicate this out, change it to a different color, maybe like a kind of bluish gray. And another cool thing you can do here is, so this is below the graph here, we can adjust it just like we did before, but this is all on the round stroke type. We can come over here to square, turn that on, and we get this nice edge. And now we can insert that like so, and get this like metal pad. And then come over here with the stroke tool and add those D-rings like that. Put it into edit mode, simplify the curve. Actually, you know what? What's useful here is is using planar mode. So just like with the volume tool, we'll turn on planar here so that we get a nice flat straight line. And let's place it there like that. And move from mixed input to point mode. And click. And each time we click it, we get an edit point. And then to close it off, we press the pointer finger on the opposite controller as well. Cool. And then we could probably duplicate that. And get another ring here. Not exactly a D-ring, but you can connect stuff to this. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad idea. We might come back and revisit that. All right, let's turn off planar and check out the comments. Okay, you want most of the load transferred to the hip belt. That makes sense. Tooling costs. Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from tooling costs right now. But yeah, I guess if you're duplicating parts, you know that you're designing the same part, and ultimately that is a tooling cost. Okay, so now let's design some other parts of the bag here. So we got all that good stuff there. We didn't do the neck brace, but we'll do that in a little bit. We're going to use some sub D for that. And we have the frame here. I think the frame looks good enough the way it is, so we might save that for last if we want to make that out of sub D. But for right now, it's telling the story the way we want it to. And okay, this is going to be interesting. We'll do some of the fabrics that are going to be on the outside of the bag. So we have that under zipper right now, but we'll create a new layer here, lock everything else, and yeah, focus on the fabric. So
here's what I'm thinking. For the fabric, it might be a good idea to, so you can do it a couple of ways, right? We're going to make all of the fabric out of sub D. So we could start with a primitive cube like this and position it roughly the size that we want the bag to be, like this, and then take that cube, convert it or put it into edit mode and convert it to sub D. And now that it's sub D, we can turn on edge loops, auto select loops, shift it so that it's connected over mirror plane like this. And you'll see when it's connected over mirror plane, it will replace it with this black key frame icon. And then we can turn on sub D. And I think I'll delete the bottom face here. And I'll delete the top face here. And now we're left with this like shell of sub D. And we can come in here and start adding edge loops and positioning, where we want this to be. And it's relatively quick. And then we can worry about where the zippers come into play afterwards because we can sketch over top of this. So it's a bit of a process, and there's definitely more than one way of doing this. This is just what I'm trying for today. Okay, ultimately, I think this is what I want to achieve, is very simple fabrics, very simple volumes, and then connect it with these really cool straps and details that just sort of harness everything in. So let's change this to a more interesting color. Let's go for like an orange, just to stay on that theme. And another way we can create fabric is just by using a simple surface like this. So I'll go to Surface Tool, drop the initial tension all the way down, and sketch out a loose surface like that. Put it into edit mode, connect the points across the mirror plane like this, and they'll just automatically snap. And I'm not going to worry about how pretty that looks. I'm just going to convert it to sub D like this. And now I have a lot more control over this surface. Also, you don't get that peak across the mirror plane when something is in sub D. Get a nice smooth transition. Okay, and now I want to take this part here. Where is it? It's under stuff. So this part here, which is our sleeping bag, and because it's an exposed part, I want to add some more detail to it. So what I'm going to do is actually drag it into a new layer here, turn down the stuff layer, and actually turn down a couple other things as well because I just want to be focused on that. So zipper layer as well. And so this was a primitive, and much like we just did with the cube here for some of the fabric around the back, we can take it and convert it to sub D and drag all those points to the mirror plane, have them connect,
See, it gets rid of that face right there. It's connected on the mirror plane. And we can also work more with it here to make a folded matte look to it. So now that I've added in all these edge loops here and I've sunken in that face, I can, because I have auto edge loops on, select an entire thing of faces like this and move them in. Now, I don't just want to move an entire row of faces in for a couple of reasons. If I move this row of faces in, I get these like this pinch here, right? And what I want is for when I turn on smoothing, I want some material thickness, right? Because it is a matte at the end of the day. It does have, an inch and a half to 2 inches of material thickness for the person to lay on. And that's not really resembling that. So let's turn subdivision off again so that we have it like this. What I want to do is take this entire row of faces, grab it, duplicate it, and push it in. But you'll notice I'm shifting it all over the place. And it's not very exact. Now, that's all right. It's a matte being rolled up. It doesn't need to look very exact, but why not add some exactness to it if we're going to build it? So if we want to move it exactly in, we can turn on restrict face movement. And what restrict face movement allows you to do is just duplicate this and maybe it's not, oh, it's not working here. I don't know why, but I have another way of doing this, which is to align our controllers up like this and use Smart Move. So let's select that row, highlight it, line our controllers up like this, and then line them up parallel with the x-axis. And now we can move this perfectly along X. So I'll scooch it out a bit like this, press the pointer finger trigger, and duplicate it in like that. And let's do it here as well. Duplicate it in, duplicate it in. And now when we turn subdivision on, we can add extra edge loops here and get that nice padded material look. So I'm noticing that we could have done some things better there, but for the sake of time, I think it's pretty good. Just to get the idea of a cross of a sleeping bag air mattress kind of thing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a break on the surfacing for the fabric and just worry about the pull tabs right now. So let's turn pull tabs on and let's leave frame on, and yeah, turn the pull tabs down in visibility, lock them, create a new layer, and now we can come in here with the stroke tool at point mode and make those straps here. So point mode, make the stroke like this, and let's come in here and make these straps. And we're going to go right on the joystick and make this strap for the belt a bit bigger. Okay, so now we can come in here and put these straps into edit mode and add some extra points here. Another thing we can do is actually turn off end caps here, and that will give you a nice flat edge to the stroke type instead of having a rounded edge. So you notice some of this stuff gets kind of complicated, and the best thing you can do is get really good with navigation. So that's holding down both of these grab triggers and moving your hands towards and apart from each other. And that just allows you to zoom way in here and view things at different scales. And I would say that's probably the most important thing to get comfortable with, that and the grab sphere, when you're first starting out with Gravity Sketch. Now, if you've been using it for a while, you've definitely already integrated that into your workflow and realize how important that is. But for people starting out, it's a good reminder that it's a really important part of getting comfortable and moving and working really quickly. So to answer, I haven't even looked at the comments, but people ask this a lot. Can you get a smooth transition across the mirror plane with stroke or ink tool? And the answer is there's no G2, G1, any official type of curvature like that. There's a lot of eyeballing that gets involved. But I think what you'll realize is it's not really that much or that time consuming, and eyeballing is a lot more accurate than you would think. Visually, that comes across as one line now. I think I'm going to get rid of the D clamps for now. They're kind of like a last detail. All right. Let's turn pull tabs all the way down and just change all of this to the same color just to get a better idea. And let's also turn the, what is it, the frame? Yep, I've already made things very messy. The pads. Okay, yep, the pads all the way down. Cool, so we can start to see things taking shape. Let's just see if anybody has questions. No export from. Cool. Nothing so far. Again, if you guys have suggestions for this, let me know. Ah, man, that really gets tricky. Really requires zooming in. Okay, there we go. And I think it'd be cool if for this bottom strap, I can duplicate it down like this, delete those outer lines, and expand the size of that strap. And that could be just like a layer of padding below the strap to give it more surface area to hold up whatever's underneath there. And we can duplicate that so that the strap is sitting on the outside of that padding. All right, so that kind of gets our concept across of
this changeable bottom part of the backpack. All right. Yep, and I'm going to do the same thing for the padding. Man, I made so many things right now. Kind of lost. Okay, yeah. So for the padding here, connecting to the shoulder blade as well. So just make a really thick line in here and have it connect all the way up to the shoulder like that. Add some thickness to it too. And then have this strap float on top of it. Like that. Cool. So I'm just going to drop in some other sub D shapes here, like this. Convert them, connect them across the mirror plane, turn subdivision all the way up, add some edge loops, and then we have like a nice quick chest plate here. All right. Okay, and so I also got some OBJs off the internet. I think it was Turbo Squid here. So if we go to prefabs and go to import models here, we can toggle through, and you can bring in OBJs from anywhere. So I got a belt buckle or some sort of a buckle here from Turbo Squid that somebody modeled, probably in Blender. And as long as it's an OBJ, you can bring it in. I think this is it. No, that might be a shoe. Oh, snap buckle. Here it is. All right, cool. And then you can just drag it into the space like that. So you'll notice that this is highlighting purple, which means it's grouped. And that means it's made of multiple pieces. So I can ungroup it like that, just intersect it here, group it again, drop it down here. Just like that.
And we're going to make this a nice big belt buckle for the waist strap. Great. And I'm also going to, so for instance here, the belt buckle isn't symmetrical, right? But the actual belt that we made is symmetrical. And I want to change some of what's happening on this side of the belt buckle, but of course all the changes we make are symmetrical. So what we can do here is grab this, which of course is made with the stroke tool, put it into edit mode, and you'll see an option here, bake mirror. And so now what that does is it makes it two different strokes, and anything I do on this side is not going to be mirrored on the other side. And so now I can make any adjustment that I want, and it looks a little more natural. Awesome. Okay. Got our belt buckle in there. Let's change that to the same material and color. And we can, of course, use that in a bunch of other places as well. We'd probably use it on the chest strap up here. I'm not going to worry about making it perfect. I'm just going to kind of place it there like that. And now let's get back to the fabrics that we have here. Cool. Change these to nicer colors. And let's add a bit of a fold here. So it's, I guess, folding as it gets closer to the top because there's not as much stuff in it and we have a looser fabric. And so we can just drop in extra edge loops like that and get a nice tightly folded look. I'm going to do that here as well. And towards the bottom here, I'm going to take these edit points and displace them out a bit so that that effect dissipates. Just like that. Let's look at some reference again here. That would be a cool effect to get there, that like pleated kind of look.
Oh, and then we have these stitchings, which we can add as icons afterwards. So if anybody out there is interested in some really great references for how to make mainly footwear, but some of these references also get into apparel wear as well. Tommy Olson on Instagram, you can find him, has some amazing work that he's done. And then there's Finn Rush Taylor as well. You can find his Instagram is also all of this you can see on the Gravity Sketch Instagram page, and then you can branch out and find individual artists, using our page as a starting point. And they have really figured out the workflow much better than I know how to do. And yeah, so I highly suggest following their pages. And if you maybe reach out and pick their brain a little bit, but yeah, they have some amazing work, and it's all in the footwear/apparel space. They've really figured out how to leverage the tool and then take what they've created and put that into Keyshot, put that into Blender, and get these amazing renders. All right, let's take a look at the comments here. See if anybody's got any questions or design feedback. And just patch up this bottom part right here. All right, it's looking decent. All right, yeah, let's check out the questions. Oh, nice. Yeah. Glad you guys are enjoying it. Okay, cool. So actually, one thing that I kind of brushed over and I should have explained better is this right here. So what I did is I made somewhat of an incision here, and it gave a nice opportunity for. Sorry, let me just change this so I can draw things out. Gave a nice little opportunity to hide the strap and have it go underneath the fabric there. So all I did was I took this, put it into edit mode, and then I clicked in an extra face like this. And once I had that extra face, I grabbed a cube, or it doesn't really matter what shape it is, and I duplicated that out. So again, that's grab, pointer finger, and drag it out. If you want to do that really exact, you can use restrict face movement, and you can see that restricts it to the direction the face is already in. And then what I did was I deleted the top and I deleted the bottom. turned on auto select loop, because now this whole front face that has a hole in it will select as a loop. Grabbed it, duplicated it, and then went left on the joystick to shrink it down. Of course, I did the same thing here. And then, just for a little bit of depth, I did it one more time. I grabbed it, duplicated it, and moved it down. And that gives it some sort of like a material thickness here. And it also gives you the opportunity to drop in extra edge loops and get a nice sort of a chamfered look right there. But it comes across as material thickness. It's a nice, useful little trick. I even went more in depth here than I did on this one here. So I can come back here and drop in those extra loops right there. Give it a little more of a defined look. And then I just loosely grab these edit points, move them around, because at the end of the day, it is fabric. It's not going to move in it or move in a very exact way. So we can take those, those liberties there. All right. Let's duplicate. Ooh, big mistake. If you're making mistakes, press the red back undo button. Let's duplicate this up, put it into edit mode, delete all this junk, and use this surface here to make a nice top part. Just going to grab that vertices, drag it all over the place, and then bring it in like that. Duplicate it, use Smart Move, and connect it to the mirror plane. And let's drop an extra row in there. Again, material thickness, it just gives the illusion of that. Make it nice and fabric-y. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of where I have, I guess you could say, a decent amount of trouble when I'm modeling things that are soft goods. This is exactly why I offered up Tommy Olsen and Finrush as references, because they do this very well, and it's very tedious for me, at least. So what I want to do is I want this exposed fabric here, and I like the way that it looks. I want some material thickness for it because we're seeing the edge here and we're kind of looking inside as well. So I want material thickness. It would go a long way in improving this as a sketch model, right? Or something that we could toss in a rendering engine and get some good results from. There's no easy way of doing material thickness in Gravity Sketch, but what I will do is duplicate it up. I do this often where I'll duplicate a part that I want to go deeper into up like this, and then I will duplicate it in like this. Usually I try and constrain it to an axis, so I'll duplicate it in like this, and I want to simplify this part. So this is going to be the B surface, and this is the A surface, and I don't need this detail work on the B surface, so I'm going to delete everything I did here, all of this junk, and drag the vertices out, connect it like that, good to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it in like this, so that it's somewhat offset. And it's not offset down here because we don't have a real offset feature to correctly offset from every single angle. Because again, this is a complex piece of geometry, right? But it's okay. We're going to get close and actually put the B side into edit mode, expand our grab sphere nice and big, shift that up. That's good enough. Again, this is fabric, so nobody can complain about surfaces or being exact. And then we're going to put this in edit mode again. And we want them to be two separate pieces of geometry because I want this B side to be a darker color and I want the outer shell to be a different color as well. So now what I'm going to do is now what I'm going to do is take this edge here, duplicate it down, and turn on snap. So with snap on, I can take sub D geometry and snap it to anything. So I'm snapping it to the sub D to the edit points of the other geometry. Now this isn't connecting it. All it's doing is snapping these points together. They're still two separate pieces of geometry. And now I'll grab this vertices here, this extra edge that I pulled out like that, and add some material thickness here. And duplicate it, connect it to the actual material and the snapped material. I'll just go along and do this entire edge this way. Now, it's kind of good that we're doing this on soft goods because, again, if this was like automotive or a hard product, you have to be a lot more careful. But again, because it's soft goods, those kind of wrinkles and imperfections, they actually add to the realism. And there we go. So now we have material thickness on this piece right here, and we can group it now, delete the old one, and lower this guy down like so. There we go. Just like that. And of course, turn snap off. Sometimes if you have a lot of stuff in the scene and you have snap on, you don't want to leave it on for long. It can kind of bog things down because it's referencing all the edit points that it can snap to. So you can understand how it gets really complicated. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do here is primitive shapes, drop in a cube, make it a really bright color, just so I can keep track of it everywhere. Grab it, sub D, subdivision level, delete a face on it, add an edge loop here, and this has now become, sorry, I'm going to make it a little narrower. Restrict face movement. Yeah, okay, delete that edge. Add two more edge loops right here. And this is going to become a nice general piece that I can put to close off and add detail on all of these straps. So I won't do it there because it has the fabric, but I will do it up here. Yep, just like that. And a couple of other places as well. So we'll do it here. Actually, we'll duplicate it here so that there's two of them. We will do it here. And here as well. And it's a little bit of cheating, but again,
we're just making a very convincing sketch model, right? We're not trying to push it anywhere past that. I think I like that better, green. All right, getting there. I'm gonna shrink that a bit, add an edge loop, and scooch that out so that we have a nice curvature, making that look a little more realistic. And yeah, now what we can do is, I really like this tech fabric here. So you can see we have these like built-in sort of matted rubber zippers, and so we can just start adding those all over the place as well. I think the rougher they look, the better. So we're going to turn off end caps here. Nice flat geometry, square shape, I think, is kind of good for now. And add some zipper pockets here. Actually, I think we can use projection mode here. So if we turn on projection mode, it's not the neatest thing, but we can draw on fabric, or on other geometry, I should say. So yeah, let's give that a shot. Let's make some diagonal ones here. Let's make one that goes across up here. And although it's not exact, it is a starting point for us. So just leveraging what we can with the tech that's already here. And now what we can do is come in here and fine tune. Just like that. Same thing up here. And now we can use the volume tool and a bunch of other tools to come in here and make tiny little parts. Actually, we can just do it up here.
try and make a techie looking zipper here. Very simple. I think that does the job. Kind of a big zipper, but well, let's shrink it down like that. And if we want even more detail, we can come in here and duplicate out that stroke that we just made, change some of the shape types, and send it right back to where it was. A lot of those little tricks that you can use. All right, and the last thing I'll do here is, again, some detail work here, but I think it goes a long way. Just turn on point mode here. Round, normal, and yep. Sorry, I want to make sure that end caps is on, and just add some techie looking stitching. These are the things that take just a little bit of time, but I mean, they add so much life to the piece. All right, these last detail parts, and then we're good to go. So you could pop a logo up here if you save it out as a PNG. Okay. All right, I think this is where we're going to cut things off with this model here. So let's turn down the reference images here, and let's get rid of the guy there. And here's our final model. So we could have even gone in more depth here, cleaning up some of these areas. But generally, I think it's pretty tight of a model. Didn't take us too long. And this will look much better if we export it and toss it into Keyshot, Blender, just any proper rendering program, and take it a step further. So I'm going to bake this, add one last detail. I can't really help myself here. There we go. Actually, let's extend that all the way up. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for everybody that showed up and asked questions, dropped some design feedback in. That all really helped. Sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with ideas on the fly. And yeah, if you like what you've seen here and you like the content that we're producing, please take the time, share it with a friend if you think they'll find it interesting. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to try and render a few images out of this backpack and drop it on our Instagram. So make sure you visit us there and see what this thing looks like. Thanks.